Welcome to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast, the show for women who are seeking more fulfillment in life and simply not getting it from their current situation. We focus specifically on careers, but hey, we spend a lot of time in our careers, so making changes here will definitely create an impact in your overall happiness. I'm your host, Simone Morris, and my mission is to empower women to succeed. I believe that in order to powerfully own your career, you must decide and claim that you want to sit in the driver's seat. You must know that you deserve better and be willing to not only do the requisite work, but be willing to go out on a limb to ensure your success. Each episode focuses on profiling a leader who is clearly demonstrating ownership of their career. Join me and my guests as we explore career journeys and bring you actionable strategies to use to get into the driver's seat for your career. Because ultimately, your career is your responsibility. Let's get into the show. In today's episode of the Power of Owning Your Career podcast, I am pleased to be joined by Gwen Edwards, an award-winning producer and host of Our Lives in News 12 Connecticut. Gwen is a broadcast journalist with more than 25 years of hands-on experience. Her career spans broadcast stations in Tennessee, Kentucky, and Connecticut. She's one of the 100 most influential Blacks in the state of Connecticut. Additionally, she has received the McDonald's Black Media Legends Award, Connecticut Hall of Fame, Best Community Talk Show of the Year Award, 2 Emmy nominations, and 3 Gracie Allen Awards for Best Talk Show. I couldn't be more thrilled to bring Gwen Edwards to you today. Gwen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm excited. Can you tell us a little bit more? I mean, you have an impressive background. I've shared some of your bio in the intro. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yes, I, at an early age, thought about being a journalist. But my interest in journalism was with newspapers or news magazines because I love to write. I had a great appetite for reading, and in turn, I developed a love of writing. So I thought as a journalist, I would write for newspapers or I would write for news magazines. And while at college, and I attended Fisk University, Nashville, Tennessee, which is a historically Black college, I was exposed to radio because that's part of the journalism and communications program that you do work in the campus radio station. And I was also exposed to television. This campus did not have a television station for broadcast, but they did have a lab where you could learn the elements of television. And I became more interested in that aspect of journalism, the broadcasting. It was more immediate. You were able to get the information out more quickly. So in turn, you had to write, interpret, determine the facts quicker and turn that around and get it to the audience. So that is where my interest in broadcast journalism started while I was at Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee.
Awesome. So were you able to immediately get a job after you graduated from Fisk in the field?
Not immediately. I did do a very short 6 months at the Nashville Banner when I graduated. And basically, I was writing obits. And that sounds morbid, and it sounds awful for a first-time job, but it was very helpful, and it was a great training mechanism because you have to find more than one way to say the person has passed away and the funeral is Tuesday. So I would look for the little nuggets about that person. I would highlight that instead. If they were a grandfather of 18, if they were a local musician, if they were just a person who was known for being a community leader, I would highlight that first. And then I would slowly weave my way back to the fact that this person had passed and the memorial service or funeral was a certain day and a certain time. And editors took notice of that. that I wasn't just cranking them out. And that's how I began to approach most stories. You can just crank it out. There's an accident on 95. You can do that all day long. But if you want to have stories that are memorable, stories that your anchors want to read, and in my case, I was a producer, so I didn't always read my copy. Other people were reading my copy. And if you want to make it something that the audience would listen to, keep their interest, then you have to look at the information in front of you and just don't make it, there's a 3-car accident on 95, avoid the area. You start with a little free parking on 95, and then you tell them why. So these are the things I learned, that, you have to hook a person's interest. You have to give them something. Yes, you may get their interest, but if you're telling them nothing, then you've lost them. And you have to be as truthful as possible, but at the same time, you have to not talk above them or below them, but you have to talk to them. So you have to make what you're writing sounds like you're not reading, but you're telling a story to them. And that's what I found journalism to be, storytelling. And it gets enhanced, of course, with sound, with great video or still pictures, but it's basic storytelling.
Well, it sounds like you're a master storyteller, starting out with obituaries. And so how did you move from telling obituaries to the next role and to actually stay in the space for 25 years?
I moved from the Nashville area to Louisville, Kentucky. Mm-hmm. And I got a job at a radio station there, WLOU, which is Black-owned and operated. And there, again, I learned to get involved in the story, to tell the story that I thought was interesting based on the facts that I had in front of me. And while working at WLOU in Louisville radio, I moved to television. And I moved to Lexington, Kentucky, which is about 75 miles away, to television. And I've been in television since. So I've had the fortune of working in print, I've had the fortune of working in radio, and I've had the fortune of working in television.
Awesome. I feel like saying the word well-rounded because it reminds me of college and saying you have to be well-rounded. And I felt like when you said television, print, and radio that you're well-rounded in the broadcasting space.
Right. And you have to be well-rounded as a person. Because I love to read, I read a lot of newspapers daily. And I looked at their reporting styles. I read them to keep abreast of what were the big stories of the day, what were the stories that were trending. Something we didn't say at that time, but we say now all the time, what's trending, what are people talking about? And I felt that was my duty as a journalist, that I should know what's going on around me. No one told me you got to go read a newspaper. I looked for them. While I read local newspapers, I also read national newspapers. I had a particular love for the Christian Science Monitor. I thought they brought a very different perspective to national and international news. But I also read, the New York Times, and I didn't touch the Wall Street Journal at that time. I just thought it was a little above my head. But now I since have, begun even to look at that more regularly. But I find that that's a mistake a lot of people make, is that they do talk a little bit above the audience's head. And while it may make them feel like they're doing their job, a lot of times it turns the audience off. And you just got to dummy it down. You just got to, I'm talking to grandma, I'm talking to mom, I'm talking to Aunt Aline. And you have to make it that level. And yes, sometimes it's very hard to dummy down some of the complicated issues and stories that are constantly in the news media. But you have to. You have to make the person who is part of your viewing audience understand, why is this important to me? Why should I care? Why should I give you my time? Why should I give you my attention? Because we know now most people are multitasking. They're not sitting in front of the TV. They're sitting in front of the TV with a computer on. music in the background and whatever else is going on in their environment, whether it's kids, husband, dog. So you have to make it simple but meaningful to them. Mm. So that is what I have learned in being a well-rounded journalist, is that you cannot turn the audience off by, oh, I know, but you don't. So now I'm going to tell you why, what you don't know and why you should care. But you should, in your writing and your delivery, have that already in so that the person becomes involved in the story or the interview or whatever you're trying to convey to them.
I love that because it's, I sort of feel like it's not just journalism, but in life as well.
It is in life, in general. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I say that to a lot of people. I say, you need to dummy that down. And they kind of look at me like, what do you mean? All I'm saying is people don't care what you know till they know that you care. And you got to show them that you care.
That's awesome. I didn't ask the advice question yet, but I think that's great advice to share in terms of your career management as well. You moved from Tennessee to Kentucky to Connecticut. Can you talk to us about how important taking risks has been to your journey?
I think you have to just step out. I came to Connecticut without a job. My husband, who worked for IBM at the time, was transferred to the New York area. And after we moved and I got the family settled, the kids were in school, we found the doctors for everybody. And then I started looking for a job for myself. And other than a resume and good references from the people back in Kentucky, there was no guarantee I would find a job in my chosen career field. But I did. And you have to just step out. You have to admit, I don't know it all. You have to be willing to learn. As you know, technology has completely changed what broadcast journalism is. At one time, it was just you got your news or your information from radio or television. Now it's multi-platform, 24 hours, 7 days a week. There's a lot of noise out there. It takes a person who is astute to the facts and the information to filter out what's noise and what's propaganda and what's disinformation and find that which is truth and get that to the viewer and to the audience. And the job has become far more difficult because of the multi-platforms that are out there now. And I'm reading all the time that a millennial generation and a Generation Z don't get their news from traditional sources.
Right.
So it's kind of scary to me that if you don't have the wherewithal to say to myself, is that true? Did that really happen? Do I trust what this person is saying? Because a lot of times it's opinionated, factless banner that you find on some of these platforms. And you have to ask yourself, is this true? Is this something I can trust? Can I take that to the bank? Would I risk making a career choice or financial choice on some of the information I'm hearing out here? You really do have to be more now discerning in what you hear and what you believe to be true.
Sure. And do you find that you take a lot of risk in your career now?
Actually, I find that I look at something 2 and 3 times. I try to look at it forwards and backwards. I try to think, can it be misinterpreted? Could it be miscrewed for something else? I don't want to say I play it safe more often, but in a world of political correctness, I find I tend to move more towards let's give it a thorough review before I say it, write it, broadcast it, tweet it, post it. I think credibility is a very hard thing to build and very easy to lose.
Absolutely.
And I really try when I take on an interviewee to look at what will I be bringing to my audience? Is it something that they can use, or it's information that will enlighten them about something in history or something coming up or something going on in their community? So I find I just examine things much more closely. I don't want to say I was young and stupid and reckless, but I think sometimes when I look back, I was young and stupid and reckless. But today, you kind of have to think about it. You have to question everything. You have to say to yourself, is that right? You have to look at different sources. There's so much disinformation being disseminated that you have to do it.
Yeah, I would say in your field especially, but yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. So over the course of your career, though, you use the word reckless, and let me ask you that about avoiding responsibility. Is there a moment in your career that you can think of that you avoided responsibility?
I'm quite sure there were many. I cannot say, my career trajectory was straight up. There were breaks in it. One is when I moved from Kentucky to Connecticut. There were other things. I had my children at a young age, and thank goodness I did, because I think once I got into my career, I don't think I would have stopped to do it. I'm glad it went the way it did. Yes, I said, okay, this is too much for me, and I'm going to step back on this, spend more time on that, because that at the time is where my attention was needed, family, and so forth. And then by the grace of God, I was able to pick the career back up. So yes, there were times where I won't say I avoided responsibility, but I prioritized my responsibilities.
Nicely stated. Absolutely. Absolutely. As a fellow mom, I can certainly understand about prioritization and opportunities that, you have to look at things differently. So awesome. So, Gwen, what would you say the formula is from your perspective for successfully owning your career?
I think you have to be all in. There are people I have seen many times who want to enter this career, broadcast journalism. And I say to them, I've worked every holiday. I've worked weekends. I've worked nights. I've worked overnights. I've worked early mornings. Think about it. Anytime you turn on the television, there's someone there. For the most part, most stations are 24 hours now. Therefore, someone is working, whether it's an overnight shift, whether it's an early morning shift. You have to be all in if you're interested in this career. I have worked in the worst of Connecticut winters, and it is expected of you, at least at the station that I worked at, that when the weather was bad, you came in early and you were going to stay late. And many times we did what was called wall-to-wall broadcasting, where we went hour after hour after hour during the blizzard or during the storm, giving, the necessary breaks. But this was what we owed our audience. We asked them to tune to us when there's breaking news or there's a weather situation or what is going on is important for them to know, and therefore we have to be there to deliver. So you have to be all in as a young broadcast journalist. And a lot of people didn't understand that you're working holidays and weekends. Your shift rotation is swinging from early morning to late night. Sometimes it's overnight. It is what it is. So be prepared to make that sacrifice. And I don't think it is just journalism. I think a lot of careers are very demanding like that you have to be all in. And this is what people are looking for when they are hiring you, when they are reevaluating you, when they are looking at you for possible promotion or the next step is your commitment.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to just clarify that by all in you mean do whatever it takes to be successful or whatever is required for the job. Is there
what is required for the job? Yeah.
Right. Is there anything else that you would say?
One of the things that I didn't do early on that I'm doing more now is trusting my instinct. If I'm getting that feeling that, something's not right here, I follow it until I'm satisfied that I understand. And early on, I didn't do that. I was oh, okay, and kind of went with it. But now, no, I'm going to check this out much more closely and delve into it deeper until I'm satisfied that everything's on the up and up with this particular situation. So I do now trust my instincts more. And I also do that when I'm interviewing because I now feel that people want to know what I want to know. So when I'm asking that question, it isn't just for me, but people at home want to know this. So I think that way too. So hopefully the information I'm getting to you is what you want to know. It's entertaining. It's enlightening. It's educational to you. So those are the things that I have learned throughout the career is to trust my instincts more.
Yeah, I've recently been tapping into energy and just how I feel, the energy that I have, even with interviewing or whatever it is I'm doing. If it doesn't feel good, I sort of sit back and look at it before I move forward. I know if it comes with age or wisdom or over time, you get to that space. So I think that's really great advice.
And don't be afraid to ask for help. I always tell people there are no dumb questions. If you don't know, you don't know. Let's explore it. And in many cases, when I'm answering a question, I learn something. Like, oh, okay. So you could do it this way too, huh? So, ask. No dumb question. If you don't know, then let's explore it together.
I think in some instances you have to feel safe to ask, but it's almost like with mindset that you have to overcome what you're telling yourself in your head, the reason not to ask, because it's better to ask than to just get a no or, whatever it is, better to ask.
Yes, I agree. And the other thing I find in my career, and this is the technology aspect of broadcast journalism, is that the younger people that are being hired are so much more advanced than I am when it comes to the technology. And, you get really intimidated by that. But in turn, I just asked. I said, okay, so you're going to send me a Google link and then I do what? And yes, I know you've been doing this since high school, but this is a new thing for me. So bear with me and let's walk through this.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you can do that too while you're doing it, So there are advances in technology that I'm never gonna be able to master, but at least I realize that, and I am willing to learn to take a stab at it. And even today, even with podcasts, I find that I was hearing everybody talk about, I listen to podcasts all the time, I listen to them while I'm driving and blah, 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 and I'm saying, oh, okay. So how do you do that? Or it's right there on your phone when there's a podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a new technology every 30 days, but you have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to embrace it, go with it. It is the world we live in.
It is so true. I think the technology sometimes is mind-boggling, and
it is very mind-boggling.
I see things online. I'm like, I don't know how to do that, and
I don't know how to do that. What are you asking me?
I have a degree in technology, and it's moving so fast. And I mean, my daughter is trying to move the computer. She's trying to move things on the computer because she's used to a phone and a iPad, and she's on the computer trying to move the screen around. And I'm like, no, you can't move it around. So it's just, I imagine what she will be able to do as opposed to what I could do right now. I mean, it's amazing.
And you have to remember, they were born and this was there. These things developed while we were growing up or while we were already in the workforce. This technology, this platform, this social media was developed. And I never thought that the power of Facebook would be more powerful than the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal or the established media. But boy, let it tweet or get on Instagram. It'll go around the world.
Yeah. I could say so much about that. My gosh, absolutely.
Yes. And that's why I think it's so important to, before you post anything, to check that out. Check out the source, try to figure out the motivation, because it's very hard to undo things like that.
I do. I think it's a balance, though, because I think that you can get into analysis paralysis. And I think with LinkedIn, sometimes people are so afraid of posting content because of the judgment that comes with once you post this thing, you're allowed to make a mistake, as long as you're not consistently, I think, fire hosing information that's inaccurate or not credible. But I think that there's sort of a barrier to entry based on that lens of it must be of value, it must be fully vetted, and, that I don't have the time to do that, so I'm not going to post anything. And as a result, I'm not in the game. I'm losing out on opportunities. So I think it's a balance.
Yes, I agree. There should be a balance. And everything doesn't have to be, a statement that's going to change somebody's life. It could be a funny tweet.
Yeah.
It could be something to make you think, oh, yeah, okay. So,
yeah.
And I'll give an example of that. One of the culture foods around the holidays in African American communities, particularly around New Year's, is black eyed peas. So I just posted, are you cooking black eyed peas for New Year's Eve? And I got all these responses. And then I got a person of Germany that said, no, our tradition is sauerkraut and something else. And I said, oh, that's great, So I'm getting feedback, and then I'm learning,
Exactly.
That in other cultures, there are different things that they kick off the new year with. And there are a lot of things like that I'd like to have conversations about. I would love to hear from people from other cultures. How do you bring in the new year? What are some of the cultural traditions that your family practices? Things like that. It doesn't always have to be, something very serious, but it can be something that starts a conversation.
Absolutely. Well, okay. So what advice would you give to someone wanting to successfully own their career?
I would say, first of all, be flexible. Sometimes you may have it in your head, I'm going to be this, and I'm going to have a 5-year plan, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that 5-year plan succeeds, and then an opportunity comes your way, and don't ignore it. Maybe it's not quite what you thought you would be doing in the next 3 years or the next 5 years, but it does not prevent you from taking that opportunity, because that experience could be something that helps you elevate yourself to get to your 5-year plan. So be flexible. Look at opportunities. Don't put yourself in a box saying, this is my career and this is my path. Look for ways that you can get to the same goal, but maybe not the same straight line. You may be a little diverted to this, but that may give you more insight into how to make your 5-year plan.
Sure. Makes sense. Absolutely. Very sound. When did you realize you were in the driver's seat for your career?
I really feel a lot of times I never was. I never felt, I'm on top of it, and I never felt that way. I always felt that I'm only as good as my last show. I'm only as good as my last interview. And I still have to prove with the next one that I can do this. So I never felt that, I've got it all under control. And I think that kept me humble and hungry and constantly trying to better myself and better my skills.
Do you still feel that way today?
Even today.
25 years?
It's 25 plus years. I still feel that you're only as good as your last show. And yes, there have been shows that have won awards. There have been awards for producing newscasts, for hosting talk shows, on and on and on. But I can't let that be what I rest my head upon. I have to strive for the next goal. So I always feel like I have to keep myself hungry, to keep myself wanting to do better, wanting to improve, wanting to do what it takes to keep myself relevant and moving forward.
No, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, to me, when I say driver's seat, I mean sort of having a handle on the outcomes of what happens in your career instead of hands-off.
Probably, I would say within the last 10 to 15 years, I felt that I could better determine the outcome with preparation, with this, with that. I begin to feel that.
Well, good. Good. Any parting words? This has been great and so informative, and I'm so grateful for you saying yes so I can get to learn more about you as well. But it's so interesting, each journey.
I'm very, very grateful for having this platform. I realize there are others who could do it better and faster, but being given this platform, I have tried to help people share their stories, share their dreams, share their accomplishments, and that I feel is the reason why I was given the platform. It's not about me, but it's about elevating others and educating others and getting the stories out there. Because I truly believe, I've always believed that everybody has a story, and it's a unique story to them, and no one else can tell it but them. And I just want to give them that opportunity to tell their story.
Well, how apropos that your show is called Our Lives.
a little thought behind it.
I love it. And having been the guest twice, you do a great job, and it's just such an opportunity to get your story out there, like you're saying. So I love that. So tell our listeners how they can connect with you.
Oh, absolutely. My email address is G as in Gwen, T as in Taylor, Edwards with an S, GT Edwards @news12.com. And I'm looking forward to hearing from your viewers.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being a part of the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. You have a wonderful story and accolades to go with it, and lots of good wisdom to share. So I am grateful to you for sharing. Thank you so much, Gwen.
I am very grateful for you for asking.
Thank you for listening to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. Check out the show notes for today's episode on the SimoneMorris.com website, where you can find links to everything that was mentioned today. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and tell a friend or two about it.